Hello everyone, Wayne Motts from the Civil War Museum in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, coming to you from Harrisburg in one of the city's oldest historic pieces of ground at the Paxton Presbyterian Church Cemetery. And I'm here with a historian of the church, full disclosure, friend and Civil War Roundtable member Norm Daniels. And we're at a very special grave for an episode of Tombstone Tales, Civil War Resting Places, only 7 minutes from the National Civil War Museum in Harrisburg, a Gettysburg Battery commander, among other things. But Norm, where are we? Tell us, this is such a historic place here, right? The church.
It is, very much so. And the building you see behind us was the original sanctuary. We use it every Sunday. It was started in 1740. However, there was a log church sanctuary right just close to where we are. Actually, part of it came into the cemetery, which wasn't a cemetery at that time. And that was about 1725. And there were people worshiping here before that. Like many early times, records have been lost or never written. And the cemetery here, the earliest known grave is 1754. And we have a lot of empty space behind it. It's not empty, and there are graves there that would predate that.
Wow, wow. And now we're at a special grave of a member, an attendee here of the church, Samuel Elder, Gettysburg commander. Tell us a little bit about Elder, what we know about him.
Well, Samuel Elder is a very interesting person, starting with we don't know when he was born exactly. We have different dates. We have secondary sources of church records that indicates that he was baptized in December of 1826. Then there's a written record he made in 1861 saying he was 33 at that time, and that would have been 1827. His gravestone indicates 1827. And he wrote that he was, later, around 1882, he wrote that he was born in 1830. It's an old churchyard. And although his parents are buried next to him, and the father died in 1827. So I don't believe the 30 date at all.
Even though that's when he said he was born.
That's when he said. I don't think he knew when he was born, actually.
But anyway, our Gettysburg Battery commander doesn't know when he's born, but
no,
that's all right.
That's all right.
In the 19th century, that actually happened.
Yeah, and it wasn't that important.
He's got a great military career, right?
He does. Yeah. He first started in 1853, signed up for 5 years with the regular army. He was put into the artillery. He was there for 5 years. He worked his way up to first sergeant. Promotions were very slow. And he left the Army in 1858 after his 5-year enlistment ended, became a lawyer here. And when the storm clouds started to build, many Confederate many officers from the South resigned, leaving a lot of holes. And so he applied and was commissioned as a second lieutenant in the first Artillery, and 3 weeks before the firing of Fort Sumter. 4 weeks after Fort Sumter, he became first lieutenant of the 4th Artillery. He had a very interesting career, a lot of different things. A couple things that happened during his time was that he was at Antietam. They used his battery along with others to plug a hole in the middle of the line, and he was stationed 80 yards from the sunken road, or we know now as a bloody lane. He was under intense fire. He silenced the battery, and because of his actions and his coolness and preciseness under fire, he was given a brevet captaincy. During the Gettysburg campaign, on July 2nd, he was at Hunterstown. On the 3rd, he found himself at the end of the line at Bushman's Hill, and he took part in counter battery fire before Pickett's charge. He also was firing at the soldiers of Pickett's charge. And later in that day, he supported Farnsworth's ill-fated charge. On the retreat to Gettysburg, following up Lee, he fought at Hagerstown, and he had some very close combat. In fact, at one stage, one of his cannoneers used his sponge staff and knocked a rebel officer off his horse.
Wow.
And so that's close.
That's
and
then he gets shipped south, right?
He did.
1864
was a big year for him.
Yeah.
He found himself in February in Florida, and he fought in the Battle of Olustee, and he supported several regiments of United States colored troops, including the 54th Massachusetts, which was the subject of the movie Gettysburg a few years back. He came, and because of his actions there, he was made a brevet major. Then he ended up in '64 at Fort Darling, and because of his actions there, he was made a brevet lieutenant colonel. After that, he ended up in Petersburg, and in June of 1864, he was captured. And they took him from there, and he ended up in Macon, Georgia, and he ended up at South Carolina, at Columbia, and he escaped in November, and going through, as Wayne said at our meeting the other night, going through swamps and other things to try to avoid capture, and did make his way back to the Union lines. 1865 found him at Petersburg. He took part in the attack on April 2nd that broke through the lines, forced Lee to start his retreat, which ended at Appomattox. While he was at Appomattox, his battery is credited with firing the last Federal shot against Lee. And in fact, that cannon on the left, they called it, the cannon barrel of that is now found at Bartlett Hall North at West Point. After the war, he stayed in the Army. He married Elizabeth, and he, who was from Kentucky at that time, and he was 41. They didn't have any children, but he stayed, and he was teaching at the Fortress Monroe Artillery School. He was promoted at that time at 1882 to major, and he died in 1885. He was brought back here and laid to rest here next to with his darling Bessie, his parents, and around here there are 60 elder relatives that he's with.
I want to say you've laid a sword out. This is not elder sword, but it is an original artillery sword from the Civil War era. You've laid that out on the grave, and then you really brought out a special artifact as part of the church archives or church collection, which is this baptismal pool here. So quickly, because we're running out of time.
I got you.
Tell us.
Well, let me tell you quickly that this is an original sword, 1861. His looked just like that, only there was engraving on it, and it's worth a whole lot more money than mine. And this is a 1740s baptismal stand. The bowl itself does not go back that far. That's 1890s, and it's been and still being used today. So any baptism is done on this.
This is what he was baptized with.
He was baptized with that right there.
All right, everybody, you just heard the history of Samuel Elder, battery commander at the Battle of Gettysburg on Bushman Hill, among other places. Olustee, Florida, on the peninsula,
Cold Harbor, he was all over.
So thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Tombstone Tales. Norm, thank you very much. Please subscribe, like, and follow us on social media for more great content.